delegation, including Secretary Lutnick, Deputy Landau from the Department of State, will be traveling to Japan for the World Expo there, and will be involved in talks there as well. You know, my very first meeting, I don't know if you know this, but when I was sworn in, I went to the State Department, I gave a speech on these steps, and then my first meeting right out of the box was with Japan, South Korea, and India. And we've repeated that meeting numerous times since then with that group and attention to others. We have a running internal joke with my counterpart from Japan. I have literally now seen him about 8 to 12 times, and our joke is that we see each other more than we see our own families. And so you know, these engagements are very important to us, and we're going to continue to stay very committed, because this, as I said to all of our partners, that this notion or idea that the United States would ever be distracted by the Indo-Pacific or even Southeast Asia is impossible. You can't be just, maybe it doesn't always, wars get more attention, but it's impossible to not be focused. This is where much of the story of the 21st century is going to be written. This is where 2/3 of economic growth is going to happen over the next 25 or 30 years. And many of the countries in Southeast Asia, not only are they some of the youngest countries in the world, but they're about to see an enormous expansion of their labor markets, their labor pool, number of workers. This is a historic, once-in-a-generation opportunity, not just for these countries to revolutionize themselves from an economic standpoint, but further strengthen our relationship. We have over 6,000 American companies that have invested heavily in these economies over the last 20 or 30 years. We're not abandoning those relationships. On the contrary, we want to strengthen and build upon them. And there are a bunch of other issues, and certainly trade is part of it. But there are a lot of other issues that we work together on, and we continue to highly prioritize that. The story of the 21st century will be written in the Indo-Pacific. And the countries represented here today, along with others that have joined to be a part of this, represent some of, not just important markets, some of the most important partners we have in the world.
Last question. This is obviously a very quick trip. Do you intend to come back to Asia or the Southeast Asian area on a longer trip sometime in the future, near future?
Sure, absolutely. This was a great trip because we got to see, 12, 13, 14, 15 countries that are all here. So these forums, there'll be a leaders forum here in October, which we look forward to being a part of it. We've also engaged with many of our colleagues here at different forums. Many of them, for example, not just at the G7 foreign ministers, they also attended on the sidelines of NATO, at the foreign minister level, and also at the leaders level. So we'll continue to engage with the region, both in Washington and other places around the world, and in our return travel here. So we'll be back in addition, and it's not just me. The Secretary of Defense has been out here. The Deputy Secretary of State will be here next week. So we'll look for other opportunities. Obviously, the Leaders Forum will be here in October as well. So we'll be here, we'll be engaged as we do every single day.
Secretary, there's a review right now by the administration of the AUKUS deal that the last administration forged, and I think that raises some questions among Asia-Pacific allies and partners about the U.S. defense commitment here in Asia. What do you say to people who...
Yeah, well, look, anytime a new administration takes over, there's a review of all policies. I mean, policies are a review doesn't necessarily mean you're against it. We did a review at the State Department of our diplomatic presence around the world, because I wanted to know which consulates and embassies could be adjusted both in their size and in their presence. Could we consolidate a presence? We did a review. We haven't closed any embassies, but we did a review. So just because you're reviewing something doesn't mean you're going to necessarily act on it. It means you're a new administration and you want to take an audit and an account of all the policies that you've inherited, and policies, how they've changed since the last time you were in office when it comes to the Trump administration. So, but our policies on AUKUS have not changed.
Thank you.
What else? That's it.
Are you hopeful on a Gaza ceasefire in the next few days?
Well, we're hopeful. I mean, in the end, we're hoping they'll move to proximity talks. It appears that generally the terms have been agreed to, but obviously now you need to have talks about how you implement those terms. And I spoke to Steve Woodcock last night, and he's optimistic that proximity talks will begin fairly soon, expedited and facilitated by the Qataris and the Egyptians. And so, but we've seen talks fall apart in the past at that stage of proximity talks. So I think we're closer, and I think perhaps we're closer than we've been in quite a while, and we're hopeful. But we also recognize there are still some challenges in the way, and one of the fundamental challenges is Hamas's unwillingness to disarm, which would end this conflict immediately. If they just release the hostages, there shouldn't be a single hostage. There shouldn't be a single hostage body still left. If they release that and disarm, this would end. But that said, the Israelis have shown some flexibility here, and so I think we've seen progress made. So we're hopeful, but we also understand that these things have been difficult for a reason. But we're hopeful that they can move to proximity talks pretty quickly and go from there and have a ceasefire in place in the near future.
Are there any sticking points from the Israeli side, such as on aid or the withdrawal of Israeli troops? Where does that stand?
Well, the sticking point would be on the Hamas side. I mean, Hamas basically wants Israel to withdraw completely and allow them to go back to being Hamas. Obviously, the Israelis aren't going to agree to that. I think the easiest way to end this, that's not what the agreement is, but the easiest way to end this is for all the hostages to be released and for Hamas to disarm. You know, absent that, the Israelis and Hamas, through the through the mediation of Qatar and Egypt, have reached an understanding on a 60-day ceasefire and some elements of that with regards to humanitarian aid through international agencies resuming and so forth. But now you've got to have talks about how do you implement that. And that's where this has fallen apart in the past. We're hopeful that'll work out. We're doing everything we can. We'd like to see a ceasefire. The president's been clear he wants to see a ceasefire. And we've invested a lot of time and energy. I know Steve Woodcock works hours every single day on this topic alone. So we've invested a lot of time into that. We'd like to see it happen. Okay? All right.
AI impersonator review, anything you can say about who was behind that?
No, I mean, anybody, it could happen to anybody. I mean, everybody, especially if you're a public figure, they just got to get enough, like they could take the interview out of here today and change it around. So, but, you know, as soon as I found out about it last week, I referred it to the FBI, diplomatic security, and others. It won't be the last time you see me or others, for that matter. Maybe some of you will be impersonated. But it's just a reality of this AI technology that's going on, and it's a real threat.
How did you find out?
Oh, somebody called me. It was a senator that called me and said, "Hey, did you just try to reach me?" And actually sent me a voice recording. It doesn't really sound like me. I mean, if you fell for that call, you know, but maybe there was a better one that I didn't see, you know. But
it was on Signal, right? So does this?
I don't know
raise
how they got it or if
questions?
it was a voicemail. No, it doesn't matter what
Guys-
form you use. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's Signal or anything
There
else.
are more secure methods that in Signal you can create an account with an email address, and that was one of the reasons that they were able to reach out to people and then use the voicemail messages to imitate your voice.
I've had people in the past ask me if I texted them. Like within days of becoming Secretary of State, I had foreign ministers calling the State Department asking if I had just texted them. So I don't know, guys. This is just the reality of the 21st century with AI and fake stuff that's going on. It's generally I communicate with my counterparts around the world through official channels for a reason, and that's to avoid this. You know.
Do you have any sense of who the perpetrators are?
No, I mean, you're not going to have any sense. The perpetrator is somebody with an AI software. That could be anybody in the world. My sense is the target really isn't me. The target is the people they're reaching out to try to trick them into a call or whatever, and who knows what they do with it. But you're going to hear about this for a long time. I mean, not just me. It'll happen to other people because all you need is a recording of someone's voice and you can come up with it. So, yeah, it's just one of the other great challenges posed to us by AI. I'm sure there's a lot of positive aspects to AI as well, but this ain't one of them.
You said, Secretary, that the weapons pause by the Pentagon in the narrow scope in which it occurred made sense, but was it a decision on which the State Department was consulted, or what was the level of coordination?
No, I said it was a review. It was a pause pending review. And so we were constantly, the Pentagon is constantly reviewing stockpiles, especially after an engagement, such as the one we had in the Middle East. So my point is that there wasn't a policy decision not to give weapons to Ukraine. It was a review in which certain munitions were temporarily paused for that review and for that purpose. And this reporting out there that there was no awareness of it is not true. Now, but no policy decision was made. In essence, no one ever said we're not sending weapons to Ukraine. That's been appropriated by Congress, and that's continued. And that continues to this very day. But when you're doing a review, there's some period of time in which during that review, it's possible that some shipping is slowed down, not stopped. But because it's being reviewed, someone would say, okay, well, let's not send it today. Let's wait a couple days because we're conducting the review of that particular munition. So that's what happened here, and I think it was not appropriately reported initially. But nonetheless, you know, it's pretty clear now that review has occurred, and as the President's made clear, there's been no change to our posture with regards to providing what we have available. Now, I would remind everybody, again, I go back to the point I made, and that is that there are certain things that Ukraine needs, like Patriot batteries. Those are available. There are multiple countries in Europe that possess Patriot batteries that they could share with Ukraine. And we're actively, talking to countries about doing that.
Anyone specifically?
Well, the Spaniards have one. They're really far from Ukraine, and they have one. The Germans have, others have. I'm not singling them out, but I'm just telling you those are two that I know. There are other Patriot batteries, and there are other opportunities. Countries that have ordered Patriot batteries that are about to receive shipments of them. It'd be great if one of them volunteered to defer that shipment and send it to Ukraine instead. So we're looking for creative ways to provide them these defensive weapons that they would need. Now, that's not going to help them with the drone attacks. That's a very different technique that you use in order to bring those down, but it would help them with some of these missile attacks that we're seeing. Again, these are defensive weapons.
The reduction in force of the State Department, is that something that we should expect to happen while you are traveling, or is it something you want to be in Washington, D.C. while it happens for?
No, I mean, we've already notified that to Congress. Understand, our reduction in force was done, I'm very proud to say, I would argue probably in the most deliberate way of anyone that's done one. We went very specifically through and reorganized the State Department, and when you reorganize the State Department, there were certain bureaus we wanted to empower the regional bureaus, and there were certain bureaus, these functional bureaus, that were closed, and so it made sense so that's been notified to Congress and to the workforce for some period of time, and so we've been ready to implement it pending a court decision, which now has been reached. There's some timing associated with how you do that, how you actually implement it. But our intent is to move forward with the plans that we've notified Congress of weeks ago, and that we took months to design.
Will the numbers be the same as what was notified to Congress?
Sure.
I mean, our plan that we notified to Congress is what we intend to do, and then we'll have achieved our. Again, the reduction in force is a consequence of the reorg. It's not a consequence of trying to get rid of people. But if you've closed the bureau, you don't need those positions. Understand that some of these are positions that are being eliminated, not people. Some of them are unfilled positions, potentially, or positions that someone took early retirement, and therefore are about to be unfilled. So, but we took a very deliberate step to reorganize the State Department to be more efficient and more focused. That's been publicly noticed to Congress months ago. We've been prepared to implement it, and the thing that slowed us down was a court decision by a district judge in the Northern District of California. The Supreme Court has ruled on that, and so we're prepared to act on it. It'll come as no surprise, and that is our reorg. That'll be the extent of what we intend to do. And we're already operating under the new organizational structure as is for the most part, so this will further enhance that. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you,
Secretary.
You're looking forward to our hop, skip, and jump home?
Yeah, isn't that something?
20 feet north.